Hello, my name is Patrick Smith with Cure for Ignorance and Gun Safe Academy in Omaha, Nebraska. Today is February 22nd, 2013. I'm making this video to talk about a gun control and rights forum I attended on February 15th, 2013, 1 week ago today, last Friday. And this was hosted at Creighton University in the Harper Center, hosted by the Libertarian Party and also the Creighton University Republicans. And this was moderated by Crass Davis, the radio personality, and they had a 7-person panel here. This is about the third time I've made this video. It was about a 2-hour deal. It was supposed to be an hour and a half, ran a little long. I thought it was going to be more of an open forum, more of a town hall type meeting where you could participate. They didn't really want audience participation. I thought at one point, or a couple of points there, they're going to ask me to leave. One of the people on the panel was a former UCLA director for Nebraska, and I thought he kind of threw a little hissy fit. So I've personally insulted or personally irritated a former executive director for the UCLA, which to me is kind of funny and kind of a feather in my cap. But I'm going to try to get through this. The first couple of attempts I made on this was 1 hour and 40 minutes, 1 hour and 40 minutes. Try to get through this video. So we'll try to keep it to about 15 minutes. All right, I'll talk about the 3 questions, or the 6 questions rather, that they asked. I'm going to read through those. I'll read through a summary of the comments made by each panel member, and I'll put a picture of them right here so you can see them. And then we'll talk about my responses to those 6 questions. All right, 6 questions they asked each panelist. What does the Second Amendment mean, and what does it do or not do to an individual's rights? They asked them for their opinions on the assault weapons ban and ban on high-capacity magazines. They asked what, if anything, could have been done to curb shootings such as Sandy Hook. Should both parties use tragedies to call attention to their issues? What level does mental illness have in the conversation, and what can be done to prevent access to firearms by prohibited persons? Are resources being focused correctly to solve gun violence issues was the 6th question, and then they allowed them some closing statements time. All right, again, 7-person panel. First one was Laura Ebke, Nebraska Republican Liberty Caucus chairwoman. Summary first statements could be as follows. She said the militia is anyone who can hold a weapon, and that it's an unqualified right. She said that there's no concrete definition for assault weapon. As far as she can tell, an assault rifle is a full auto, assault weapon is just a scary gun, and I agreed with that. She said there should be no assault weapons ban, and that we should try to keep hands out of prohibited persons. No security in the world would have stopped Sandy Hook. We need to remove gun-free zones in malls and theaters too, not just schools. I disagree with that. The government does not have the permission to trample my rights in order to let somebody else carry there. If it's my house, my business, and I have a no gun sign, I have an absolute right to do that. I don't believe the government has a right to tell malls and theaters that they have to allow people to carry guns there. I disagree with that. She said that more resource security officers, more resource school officers would be beneficial, but that costs money. She blames the exploitation of this on the 24-hour news cycle. Says that media and politicians exploit the situations, but it's inappropriate. She thought it was very important that it becomes important how you define mental illness. Saw a lot of problems with HIPAA as far as getting that information into federal background checks, and that many people seeking treatment who are actually not dangerous. She said that we are inherently a violent society. She's not sure the resources will solve this problem. She blames gun violence on a problem of the soul, on TV, and on single-parent homes. In conclusion, she said that civil liberties are important, and the more people we have exercising the Second Amendment rights, the harder it will be for the government to take them away. All right, next we had Timothy Butz. Best picture I get right here. Community activist and former ACLU Nebraska Executive Director. Says U.S. Supreme Court held up Second Amendment as an individual right, but it is not an unqualified right. Restrictions can be constitutional. We need to discuss those limits. We need to read the Second Amendment in light of promoting the general welfare. He took that from the preamble of the Constitution, and I'll mention that in my statement later. Assault weapons ban, he said that's a red herring. The most assaulting rifles are semi-auto. We're talking about a difference in style, not function. I agree with that. He says we need to ask ourselves, how do they get into the hands of people who want to kill? Like that guy in California who was shooting the police. And I spoke up several times in this, my father as well. My father was with me too. And I said, that guy was a cop and a former military service member. I mean, what? You're asking me why this guy was able to get a gun and why didn't he have a background check? And he was a cop, for Pete's sake. He had plenty of background checks done on him. He seemed to advocate for safe stores laws. I agree that gun owners should take responsibility for securing those firearms and keeping them out of the hands of unauthorized people. I believe that a safe stores law, though, makes criminals out of the victims of gun theft. And so I do not agree in safe stores laws, but take responsibility and lock those guns up. Keep them out of the hands of children and unauthorized people. He said that exploitation is American as apple pie, to which I said that doesn't make it right. Again, they were ready to get me out of there. We need to learn from and discuss issues after these incidents. We need a rational discussion. We don't need to yell. I think that was kind of directed at me, but I was in the auditorium. I had to shout so you could hear me. Mental illness shouldn't be the whipping boy, he said. We will keep seeing this as an issue as government continues to grow smaller. That's actually what he said. It's almost a direct quote. And there's about 60 people in the conference room there, the auditorium, and at least half of us busted up laughing when he said the government will continue to get smaller. Because no one, where do you get that from? He said it's also impossible to predict behavior. He said the left has to give the idea the assault weapons ban will change the world, and the right has to give it the idea that it can change, that any change will result in confiscation of their guns. We already have nearly 30,000 gun laws on the books. He says that we need to make reasonable compromises. I think we've made more than enough compromises on our Second Amendment rights. Next guy is Ryan Baumgart, Douglas County Republican chairman. I have this picture from his LinkedIn page. Said that the bill is not a list of rights given by the government, therefore the government cannot take them away. He got applause for that. Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. It is there to protect us from a tyrannical government. You got applause for that too from me. We don't hear stories about when guns are used to save lives, like the mother in Georgia shooting an attacker 5 times to save the lives of her children. That's true. They don't usually publicize those very much. Who is government to tell me what I need? I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. Talking about the magazine capacity in the assault weapons ban. He says parenting is not always the government's job. And to which my dad spoke up and said it's never the government's job. We should use events like Sandy Hook to bring up issues and discuss them, but not to exploit them. He said state-run psychiatry is a terrifying weapon, and that Russia used it at one point, and it's a roundabout way to enact gun control. He said there is an absolute line where there can be no compromise, and that's the Constitution. Gun control is a misuse of resources. Criminals don't follow laws. This legislation would lead to unintended side effects such as victim disarmament, and that gun-free zones do not dissuade crime. He also got on Chris Price, the next guy I'll talk about here, for wanting to ban magazine capacities over 10 rounds, because even at one point he admitted that such a law would have not have stopped the Sandy Hook type shooting. Next guy, Chris Pearce. He has a beard now and glasses. This is the best picture I could find. Douglas County Democratic Party chairman. Agrees that there is need for a militia, and stated that the 1792 Militia Act gave the president and the states power to raise a militia, but there are conditions in the Second Amendment. A standing army is not a militia. The U.S. Army is not a militia. So he's missing the definition of militia. He said several times that I'm going to make my party angry at me for saying this, and he'll say something that we generally agree with, and then he'd talk out the other side of his mouth and kind of restate the party line. So he made that statement, and then he said there should be no assault weapons ban, to which we applauded. And he said the Second Amendment doesn't limit what type of gun you can have. We thought that was good too. But we need to limit magazine sizes. And again, all these statements I'm paraphrasing for the most part. He showed this picture of a Glock 9mm with a 100-round magazine, to which all his gun guys thought, that's cool. And he says, if you can't hit the target after 100 rounds, you need to go back to the target range. And again, it's insulting. He thinks that just because you need a 100-round magazine means that you can't hit anything. That's just insulting. Said that no law would have undone Sandy Hook. He said that he used an AR and 2 Glocks, to which we all said he left the AR in his car.
4 handguns, and apparently only handguns, that were taken into the school. We knew that Adam Lanza, the man said to be the gunman here, also had a assault-style, AR-15 style rifle that he had taken to the school that was in the car he drove there, his mother's car. But we've been told by several officials that he left that in the car.
and that was taken from NBC, and was out well before we had this forum. Let's say, he said that he stole these guns from his mom, so no law would have stopped him because he broke the law to get the guns. No kidding, a criminal broke the law. Stop the presses. He said that it's too low brow to exploit tragedies. He cited Columbine as a reason that magazine capacity should be reinstated. I spoke up here too because, well, I'll touch on it later. They used high .95 carbine magazines, carbine guns there. So it took a pistol round for the rifle, and they only had 10-round magazines. So Assault Weapons ban didn't. I mean, they made the high .95 in order to comply with the Assault Weapons ban. Okay. Said that Cho was found mentally ill and dangerous and should have been stopped. I spoke up here too, but I'll mention that later in my statement. He said we should do whatever it takes to be heard by your government officials. To which I said out loud, "You've been telling us to shut up all night." He said you should tell your government that we have a problem and tell them to do something. And again, a direct quote was, "We have a problem, do something." Sometimes for the government to do nothing is the best thing they can do. When you don't really care what the action is, you just want something done, that's when we get into issues. He said that he kept bringing up that there's been 386 mass school shootings where 4 or more people were killed. And he says, we can't just focus on the Sandy Hook kids. It makes me so angry because there's all these other kids that have been killed. Again, it's a typical liberal argument to flood the issue with emotion and to not look at facts. He said that not all Democrats are liberal. He got a chuckle for that. He said the Second Amendment says you have the right to keep and bear arms. Doesn't say anything about ammunition, to which I said very loudly, that's not funny. He said, just keep the guns, just give me the magazines. I don't care if you have a bazooka. You know, just make sure you don't have magazines that hold more than 10 rounds and you can have them. And to which I said, a bazooka is a one-shot deal. You don't have a magazine on this boot. Even the pro-gun guys kept saying clip when they meant magazine. It was annoying us gun guys. There should have been someone like me or my dad on the panel to actually give a decent answer to some of these things. Next guy, Mike Kneeble, Libertarian Party of Nebraska Communications Director. He says the Bill of Rights were based on the natural rights, such as those listed in the writings of John Locke, as in the right to self-defense. He says this right does not expire, and the Constitution doesn't say so long as the militia is necessary to the security of a free state. It says the militia is necessary, and the right to people keep and bear arms is necessary. Said that we have the lowest crime rate since 1981 right now, even though gun ownership has consistently gone up, and that magazine size doesn't matter, it matters who's pulling the trigger, obviously. He said we have no 100% guarantee of safety. He brought up gun safety courses in order to take the taboo out of the guns for kids. I support the idea. It's similar to what the NRA suggests in the Eddie Eagle program. I'll put a logo here for Eddie Eagle. I support that idea, but I think it's kind of off topic because gun safety courses for children is not going to stop gun shoot-ups of schools. Those to me are separate issues. The people shooting everyone, they know guns are dangerous. So I'm not really sure what he meant with that. I don't think Eddie Eagle can stop school shootings. Said we should make government smaller. Again, typical libertarian view. I like that. Majority of school shooters are between 12 and 17-year-old males, while the majority of counseling patients are women 40 to 50. He said this in order to illustrate that mental illness is not the cause of these shootings. He says it becomes the question, who is mentally stable, especially with so many new mental illnesses being discovered. And that's the thing. When the government is in charge of deciding who's mentally fit, instead of being innocent until proven guilty, you become crazy until proven insane. And that's a dangerous thing. He doesn't think that violent movies, violent video games, entertainment, or magazine sizes has anything to do with gun violence. He said it comes from a devaluation of human life, such as looking down on gays and lesbians, other races, even abortion. He brought up abortion as a way to devalue human life. He believes that all this boils down to you believing that your life is more important and more valuable than someone else's. I understand what he's saying here. I obviously believe that there are instances where you need to believe that your life is more important than someone else's, such as in a self-defense encounter. I mean, if it's either you're going to be killed or the guy who's attacking you is going to be killed, I'm going to choose the other guy every time. But I understand that's not what he's saying here. Okay. That sums up his comments there. Mark Zimmerman, the Nebraska Green Party. You try to find a picture of that guy online. I can't. Well, here, this one is from the camera shot I took from the meeting. Yeah, he's the one, two from the right there. Okay. He made it very clear that his statements were his and not those of the Green Party. He said that he doesn't think it's an unlimited right. He says you're not allowed to own a surface-to-air missile, to which about half a dozen gun owners, including myself, said yes, we are. And he says, oh, we are? Well, maybe there should be some limits then. He said the assault weapons ban, the assault weapons definition is confusing. He said it seems like most common solutions are either to say more guns or more regulations. He says, why don't we address poverty and give people a living wage? Raising a minimum wage eliminates jobs. It's just that simple. And Sandy Hook wasn't about money. The guy wasn't there shooting the kids in order to steal their milk money. He was just there shooting kids. I don't understand how you can say that was driven by money. He says, I don't know what the solutions are. It may pertain to background checks, universal registration, or universal background checks. He actually said universal registration. I'm starting to understand now why he made it clear that these are not the views of the Green Party. He got some boos for that one. We need to focus on education, livable wages, social opportunities. Again, I think that's BS. His closing statement says he was surprised by how many areas we agreed on. I think he was the only one who thought we agreed on a lot of stuff. Last guy, Jim Mayson II, Nebraska Tea Party Patriot State Coordinator. This guy, his opening statement says that we have a right to defend yourself from a tyrannical government. He said gun deaths have dropped steadily. New laws would only affect lawful gun owners. Again, I think that's pretty clear to anyone who's pro-gun and actually looks at statistics with an open mind and now with a preconceived idea of what they should say. He said that politicians like Obama and Biden use things like this to distract from things like the debt ceiling, the fiscal cliff, sequester, things like that. He said that he sees mental health as a minefield and said he's not a medical professional, and so he didn't touch that topic, which I don't really blame him for. Liberals focus on taking guns away from the American people. Poverty does not cause crime. He says, look at the Great Depression. Lots of guns, very little money, no mass shooting sprees. The media is complicit with the left, which a lot of us cheered for because I think that's well known. He says gun control is a threat, and he does not see it fading away quickly. All right, so that, in about 17, 18 minutes, was all of their statements. I'm going to go through now and read through these questions again and give you what my response to each would have been. What does the Second Amendment mean, and what does it do or not do to an individual's rights? I believe it guarantees the individual the unqualified right to keep and bear arms and ammunition equal to or greater than anything the government does. Okay? There are U.S. citizens who own attack helicopters, who own tanks, who own surface-to-air missiles, who own bazookas, who own fully automatic machine guns, who own 50 caliber Mongoose machine guns. I have never heard of a single one of them using their private property, their private ownership of those amazing and powerful firearms to commit any crimes. Okay, the militia, I believe, is in the entire people of the U.S., and the Second Amendment is necessary to securely maintain freedom in the U.S. I'm going to read for you the Second Amendment here and show you why I mean that. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The way I read being necessary to the security of a free state is not to make sure Nebraska stays free. To me, that means being necessary to secure the state of being free. Like, solid, liquid, gas, a state of matter, the state of freedom. The right to keep and bear arms is necessary to secure the state of freedom. The words in the preamble that say promote the general welfare, to me, these are some of the most perverted words in the U.S. Constitution. This was used by Tim, again, formerly of the UCLA, as justification for gun control. And they use this to justify Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, everything else. Even if it were allowable in the Constitution, restricting guns will not promote the general welfare, as it will increase the level of victimization and violent crimes in the U.S. Okay. Second question, their opinions on the assault weapons ban and high-capacity mags. Assault weapon ban didn't reduce gun crime. Since it expired, the rate of gun crime has continued to go down. As far as high-capacity mags, they want to ban standard capacity mags. Chris, the Democrat, mentioned the Columbine shooting where the kids used a high .995 carbine, which is, again, shoots a pistol round and only has 10-round magazines. They made it specifically to comply with the assault weapons ban. So Columbine is not an example you want to bring up to say, see, an assault weapons ban can stop things like this because they used a gun designed to be allowed by manufacturing because of the assault weapons ban. It's ridiculous. 3. What, if anything, could have been done to curb shootings such as the Sandy Hook shooting? No law or gun-free zone could stop it. Removing the gun-free zones from inside government schools, and I would urge states to allow concealed carry permit holders, whether it's faculty, students, parents, or private citizens, to carry in public schools and private colleges, or excuse me, public colleges and campuses. That's the only way you're going to stop this. Wayne LaPierre, the NRA, said the only thing that stops a bad man with a gun is a good guy with a gun. That's the best way to sum it up, I think. More resource officers would certainly help too. Safe stores laws, gun-free zones, assault weapons bans, large capacity magazine bans will not stop school shootings. And again, I can point to Columbine just like Chris Pearce did and show you that's why they won't stop it. Should both parties use strategies to call attention to the issues? I think the left has done an incredible job of using this occurrence to bring attention to the need for a gun ban. But I think the right needs to do a better job of using this as a reason to remove gun-free zones. My father and I used the shooting at New Life Church to lobby the legislature to allow concealed carry permit holders to carry in churches. And now in Nebraska you can carry a concealed firearm into the church if you have permission of the governing body, the pastor or the board of elders, and they give permission in writing to the congregation. Most churches are doing that by putting your name in the bulletin. Okay, so I think it is using these as real-life examples to justify changes to law, I think is good. All right. Number 5, what level does mental illness have in conversation, and what could be done to prevent access to firearms by prohibited people? Laura said that we are a violent culture, and I really beg to differ against that. I know there are differences between how the Home Guard in the UK keeps statistics versus the FBI, but just comparing those two databases, the violent crime rate for the US is something like 400 and some per 100,000, while in the UK it's over 1,300. So they have like 3.5 times our violent crime rate. Okay, and I understand there could be differences in what constitutes a violent crime in the UK versus the US. I don't think rude language in the UK counts as a violent act, though. I know in London last year they had over 160,000 muggings in London alone. So look at Africa, South Africa, Sudan. I don't see anybody in America going and killing off an entire subgroup of people with machetes and dumping their bodies in the river. You cannot tell me that America is a violent country compared to other countries. Okay. We need to use the laws that we actually have now. We have holes and stuff like this, and we're only using one system, the criminal background check system. In 2011, there were 44,000 BATFE forms kicked back because they were from prohibited people trying to acquire firearms. So they were not approved for their firearms purchases. And again, it's a little over 44,000. Of those 44,000, here's the name, address, phone number, social security number, everything you need to find this person and prosecute them. Of those 44,000 plus, they prosecuted 44. 1/10 of 1%. Use what we're using now. Use the laws we have now before we start adding more. All right. Chris, the Democrat, brought up Cho with the Virginia Tech shooting, saying that he was mentally ill and dangerous and should have never had a gun. Cho was not adjudicated, again, found by a judge to be mentally ill and dangerous. Cho was going to voluntary counseling. I do not believe you should lose your constitutional rights to own a firearm if you're going to voluntary counseling. If my cat dies or my parents die and I go to voluntary counseling, why should I lose my constitutional rights for that? I think that's ridiculous. So I spoke up and I said it was voluntary. Right now, we're innocent until proven guilty. Again, if the government takes over psychiatry, we'll all be crazy until proven sane. And I'm a gun owner who describes myself as a gun nut. I mean, anybody who's a fan of something, it comes from the word fanatic. I love guns. Everything I have is for defensive purposes. I'm not a collector. I don't collect historical guns. I don't collect odd calibers. I collect, 3 or 4 calibers. I stockpile ammunition, and I have pistols and rifles that shoot both kinds of I have 9mm pistols and rifles. I have 22 pistols and rifles. I'm a defensive guy, but I identified the word gun nut, and I like that term. But the idea that someone can watch a video like this and then submit it to the federal government and say, this guy admitted to being a gun nut, called himself a gun nut, obviously he's mentally unstable, we should go take his guns away. I don't want the government to have that kind of power, and I don't think anybody does. Because again, once they have that power over something, they'll do it for everything else. All right, retain as much power as you can in your own hands. Don't pass it off to somebody else. Don't say, we have a problem, fix it. Do something. Make sure you know what they're going to do, okay? The government is not your parent, and you shouldn't treat them as such. Number 6, are resources being focused correctly to solve gun violence issues? No. We waste time debating and trying to pass more laws that don't work while ignoring and not enforcing the laws we already have on the books. Again, we're approaching 30,000 federal, state, and local laws to do with firearms. Everyone in this debate said that we support keeping guns out of the hands of mentally dangerous people and people who unauthorized people. Well, okay. Yeah. So use the laws we have. Don't make safe storage laws. Don't make it so firearms owners have to have liability insurance just to have the gun. That's ridiculous. Closing statements for me. I don't believe we're going to see any federal action taken on gun control. I really don't. The Senate might get something through, but it won't go through Congress. And there are enough representatives that have said to the president that if he tries to pass an executive order to circumvent the Constitution, that they'll impeach him. So I really don't think we're going to have any problems with federal laws being passed about guns. As for Nebraska laws, a lot of cool things in the unicameral, and if you, I'll put the links below, but we have a new segment on Cure for Ignorance that I do with my father, where we talk about current bills in the unicameral and what those mean for Nebraskans. The Nebraska Firearms Freedom Act, excellent bill. Again, the links to those are going to be below those videos. And so the segment's called Bill Me, and it's a good segment. You should take some time and watch it. I try to do the legwork for you so that you don't have to. All right, so I've taken 2 hours plus of a discussion, and I boiled it down to less than half an hour. So hopefully I saved you guys some time, and I appreciate you watching. Rate it, like it, comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and keep calm, carry on.